Hello Zari, good evening. Given the outcome of diplomacy and the imminent activation of the snapback mechanism, what is the current situation in Iran?
Sadat, honestly, the situation in Iran after the Islamic Revolution, and especially in this nearly half century, has reached a completely unprecedented state, with crises in various aspects expanding ever further, especially in the political and economic dimensions. Now, with only 10 days left until the activation of the snapback mechanism, which the European Troika, or the three powerful European countries, Britain, Germany, and France, have threatened to trigger, and during this period, the deadline given to Iran until the 31st of August to reconsider its nuclear program, its missile program, and its support for proxy groups, and to continue its negotiations with Europe and the United States to cooperate with the International Atomic Energy Agency, and during this deadline, Iran did not take advantage of it, and there was no progress in the field of diplomacy. Now everything has become serious, and opposition to these policies of the Islamic Republic has also intensified greatly inside Iran. The Reformist Front is one of the groups that is strongly criticizing and believes that the regime is on the edge of a precipice, heading toward economic collapse and such outcomes. Similarly, in other Middle Eastern countries, concerns about the situation escalating into a major war have also intensified. Now, although Europe and the United States are entangled with Russia over Ukraine and other global issues, it seems that preparations to activate the snapback mechanism are becoming more serious. Although Iran believes that European countries do not have this capability or legal right, given that the JCPOA has been violated and UN Security Council Resolution 2231 no longer holds its original status. Meanwhile, we see that the world is serious about this path, and Mr. Pezeshkian is on a regional trip to circumvent the sanctions. For security matters, the Secretary of Iran's Supreme National Security Council is also active after his own regional trip, and the situation is becoming increasingly complicated.
Thank you very much. Allow me to break this question into three parts. First, will the snapback mechanism be triggered? If yes, what will be the consequences, and how will the Islamic Republic respond to it?
To answer the first part of your question, if Iran does not take a step in line with what the Europeans, the United States, and generally the West expect from it in these remaining few days, there is a strong likelihood that the snapback mechanism will be triggered and the suspended UN sanctions, which have been more or less on hold for about a decade, will all be reinstated. The consequences of triggering the snapback mechanism for Iran, especially in economic terms, will be very severe. This is something Mr. Aragchi also mentioned yesterday. He said that although it won't end everything, its consequences for us will be very heavy. Iran is currently in a state of crisis from various perspectives. If all the United Nations sanctions, which currently include financial sanctions, sanctions on Iranian banks, on Iran's assets both inside and outside the country, and on influential Iranian individuals and entities, are reinstated, in short, it's a whole package of numerous sanctions that could cripple Iran's economy. And an even more dangerous consequence would be that when the Iranian people are facing crisis, hunger, and instability, there is a possibility that their unrest or protest against the regime could intensify. And Iran's response will be that even in just the past month, all the statements from members of Iran's parliament and several of its committees have strongly emphasized that as soon as the snapback mechanism is triggered, we will withdraw from the NPT. There are several actions Iran has taken which could serve as a response. The first response is that it might withdraw from the NPT. Iran's withdrawal from the NPT, or the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty, is something that all countries that are definitely committed to it, including those that currently possess nuclear weapons, except for North Korea, are part of. North Korea withdrew from the NPT in 2010 and managed to build nuclear weapons in just 3 years. In 2006, it conducted a missile test with a nuclear warhead, and now everyone knows North Korea's current position. If Iran also withdraws from the NPT, it will quickly move toward building nuclear weapons, and this would pave the way for a much larger war, which the G7 announced today. In general, the major powers, including China and Russia, do not want Iran to develop nuclear weapons, and in such a scenario, the whole world would be at war with Iran. Another possible response is closing the Strait of Hormuz. If Iran closes the Strait of Hormuz and blocks the gateway for the world's oil and energy transport, this alone could trigger a global economic crisis and cause the world to rise up against Iran. Overall, Iran's responses would be such that their consequences would lead to larger-scale wars, both in the region and globally.
Thank you, Zari. These days, the Reformist Front is a hot topic. What is the Reformist Front, and what have they said recently?
Well, after the victory of the Islamic Revolution and the establishment of the Islamic Republic, those who have been in leadership under Mr. Khamenei for all these years in government and at the top have been the decision makers. These were the people who were part of the Islamic Republic. They played a role in the revolution, but now they are considered the opposition. There are several branches of the opposition, and one of the most important among them is the Reformist Front. These are now the reformists. Most of them are principalists, who are mainly those in government, while the reformists are those who are in the opposition. The Reformist Front is now criticizing the Islamic Republic in an unprecedentedly harsh tone and manner. And in these recent days and nights, their belief is that the snapback mechanism will definitely be activated, and as we explained earlier, its consequences will be dangerous for Iran. And the Reformist Front believes that Iran has been brought to the brink of collapse and that the possibility of the regime's downfall and an uprising exists, something that concerns many, including reformists, principalists, supporters of Ayatollah Khamenei, and also the 14th government. This is in response to the statement from the Reformist Front, which included several points that I will mention. In response to that statement, they said that the Reformist Front is the enemy's fifth column inside Iran. The Reformist Front is translating the language of Netanyahu and Trump. The Reformist Front is making the situation more complicated, as Mohajerani, the government spokesperson, said yesterday. And the Reformist Front has several important demands. They have put forward a list of demands, and I will present the most important ones here. One of their demands is that uranium enrichment must be suspended. Their second demand is that negotiations with Europe and the United States must definitely take place. Their third demand is that there must be very serious changes in the government. Their fourth demand is that in religious matters, for example, executions must be stopped and political prisoners must be released. And regarding women, the laws and bills that have now been passed and are in effect must be amended and changed, and the concerns and criticisms raised by the world about Iran must be taken seriously. However, the Islamic Republic is opposed to the Reformist Front.